It's 3 a.m. and your mind is racing. The same thoughts spinning endlessly. The same worries circling back again and again. You try to force yourself to stop thinking, but that only makes it worse. The harder you fight your thoughts, the louder they become. This mental prison tormented the Sufis for centuries until they discovered the secret to true mental peace. For most of human history, this wasn't a problem. Our ancestors were too busy surviving to get caught in endless mental loops. They had real, immediate problems that required their full attention. Hunt or starve. Find shelter or freeze. Stay alert or become something else's dinner. Their minds were naturally focused on the present moment because the present moment demanded everything they had. But modern life has created a strange situation. Most of your immediate needs are met. You're not worried about finding food today or shelter tonight. Your survival is relatively secure. So your mind, designed to scan for threats and solve problems, has nothing urgent to focus on. It starts creating problems to solve, threats to worry about, scenarios to analyze. This is why your mind races at 3 a.m. It's not broken. It's doing exactly what it evolved to do. But it's doing it in an environment it wasn't designed for. It's like a high-performance car engine revving in park. All that power with nowhere to go creates noise, heat, and wear. The Sufis understood this centuries before modern psychology existed. They realized that the thinking mind is like fire. Fire is incredibly useful when controlled and directed. It cooks your food, warms your home, powers your civilization. But when fire is out of control, it burns everything down, including itself. Your thinking mind works the same way. When focused and directed toward actual problems that need solving, it's one of your greatest tools. But when it's running wild, analyzing everything, worrying about everything, commenting on everything, it becomes a source of suffering rather than solution. Most people try to solve this problem by fighting their thoughts. They try to force their mind to be quiet. They try to push unwanted thoughts away. They try to replace negative thoughts with positive ones. This approach seems logical, but the Sufis discovered it's exactly backwards. Here's what they learned. The more you fight your thoughts, the stronger they become. Attention is like food for thoughts. When you resist a thought, you're actually feeding it massive amounts of attention. You're making it more important, more persistent, more intrusive. Think about it. If someone told you right now, whatever you do, don't think about a white elephant, what immediately pops into your mind? A white elephant, of course. The command not to think about something automatically makes you think about it. This isn't a flaw in how your mind works. It's a fundamental feature. The Sufis realized that fighting your thoughts creates what they called the inner war. You become divided against yourself. Part of you thinks, another part tries to stop thinking. Part of you worries. Another part worries about worrying. Part of you judges. Another part judges the judging. This internal conflict is exhausting and ultimately futile. So what's the alternative? The Sufis developed a radically different approach. Instead of fighting thoughts, they learned to befriend them. Instead of pushing thoughts away, they learned to welcome them. Instead of trying to control the mind, they learned to dance with it. This might sound crazy. If thinking too much is the problem, how can welcoming more thoughts be the solution? But here's the secret the Sufis discovered. Thoughts only have power over you when you resist them. When you welcome them, when you stop fighting them, they lose their grip on your attention. It's like quicksand. The more you struggle against quicksand, the deeper you sink. But if you relax and lie flat, you can float on top of it. Thoughts work the same way. The more you struggle against them, the deeper you sink into mental quicksand. But if you relax and stop struggling, they lose their power to pull you down. The Sufis practiced what they called thought watching. Instead of getting caught up in the content of their thoughts, they learned to observe the process of thinking itself. They would sit quietly and simply notice thoughts arising and passing away, like watching clouds drift across the sky. This practice seems simple, but it's revolutionary. Most people are so identified with their thoughts that they can't tell the difference between themselves and their thinking. They think they are their thoughts. When a worried thought arises, they become a worried person. When an angry thought arises, they become an angry person. When a sad thought arises, they become a sad person. But thought watching reveals something extraordinary. You are not your thoughts. You are the awareness that observes thoughts. You are the sky, not the clouds. The clouds come and go, but the sky remains unchanged. Thoughts come and go, but the awareness that witnesses them remains peaceful and clear. This realization changes everything. When you know you're not your thoughts, you stop taking them so seriously. When a worried thought arises, you don't become worried. You simply notice, oh, a worried thought is here. When an angry thought arises, you don't become angry. You simply observe, interesting, an angry thought has appeared. The Sufis compared this to sitting by a river, watching the water flow by. You don't jump into every current and let it carry you downstream. You remain on the bank, peacefully observing the flow. Thoughts are like the water in this river. They're constantly flowing, constantly changing. But you don't have to jump into every thought and let it carry you away. This takes practice, of course. For most people, the habit of identifying with thoughts is so strong that it happens automatically. A thought appears, and immediately they're lost in it, swept away by its emotional current. But with practice, you can develop what the Sufis called the inner witness, the part of you that remains calm and clear, no matter what thoughts are arising. Here's a practical way to begin developing this capacity. The next time you notice your mind racing, don't try to stop it. Instead, get curious about it. Ask yourself, what is my mind doing right now? Not what are you thinking about, but what is the process of thinking like in this moment? Maybe you'll notice that thoughts are jumping from topic to topic like a monkey swinging from branch to branch. Maybe you'll notice that the same thought keeps repeating like a broken record. Maybe you'll notice that one thought triggers another, which triggers another, creating long chains of mental activity. The key is to observe without judgment. You're not trying to fix or change anything. You're just getting to know how your mind works. This curious, non-judgmental observation is what creates space between you and your thoughts. And in that space, peace is possible. The Sufis also discovered something else important. The mind thinks it's protecting you by constantly analyzing and worrying. It believes that if it stops being vigilant, something terrible will happen. So when you try to force it to be quiet, it resists because it thinks you're putting yourself in danger. But when you approach your mind with appreciation and curiosity, rather than force and resistance, it begins to relax. It realizes that you're not trying to destroy it or ignore important information. You're simply trying to work with it more skillfully. Think of your mind like an overprotective friend. If this friend is constantly warning you about dangers that aren't real, you don't need to cut them out of your life. You just need to learn to listen to them without automatically believing everything they say. You can thank them for their concern while making your own decisions about what actually requires your attention. This is how the Sufis learned to relate to their thinking minds. With appreciation for the mind's positive intentions, but without being enslaved by its constant commentary. They developed the ability to think when thinking was useful, and to rest in peaceful awareness when thinking was not needed. Another key insight from the Sufis is that mental peace isn't the absence of thoughts. It's the presence of choice about which thoughts to engage with. A peaceful mind still has thoughts, but it doesn't get hijacked by every thought that arises. It can choose which thoughts are worth following, and which ones can be allowed to pass by unnoticed. This is like being at a party with many conversations happening around you. You can choose which conversation to join and which ones to ignore. You don't have to participate in every discussion just because you can hear it. Your mind works the same way. Thoughts are constantly arising, but you can choose which ones deserve your attention. The Sufis practiced what they called selective attention. They would deliberately focus on thoughts that were useful, creative, or peaceful, while allowing useless, repetitive, or disturbing thoughts to drift away unattended. This isn't suppression or denial. It's conscious choice about where to direct your mental energy. Here's another practical technique from the Sufi tradition. When you notice your mind getting caught in repetitive loops, gently redirect your attention to your breath. Not to control your breath, but simply to notice it. Breathing is happening in the present moment, so focusing on breath naturally brings you out of mental time travel. Most mental suffering comes from living in the past or future. Regret about what happened, worry about what might happen, analysis of what should have happened, planning for what needs to happen. But life is actually happening right now, in this moment. When you anchor your attention in the present moment through breath awareness, the mental loops lose their power. The Sufis also understood that different types of thinking require different approaches. Creative thinking, problem-solving, and planning are valuable mental activities that deserve your full engagement. But worry, rumination, and obsessive analysis are mental habits that create suffering without creating solutions. Learning to distinguish between useful thinking and useless thinking is a crucial skill. Useful thinking has a purpose and leads to insight or action. Useless thinking goes in circles without producing anything valuable. When you notice useless thinking, you can gently disengage from it. When you notice useful thinking, you can give it your full attention. This discernment develops over time as you practice observing your mind. You begin to recognize the difference between mental activity that serves you and mental activity that exhausts you. You learn to nourish the first kind and starve the second kind of attention. The ultimate goal isn't to stop thinking entirely. Thinking is one of your greatest human capacities. The goal is to develop a healthy relationship with thinking where you use your mind as a tool rather than being used by it. Where you think when you choose to think and rest when you choose to rest. The Sufis achieve this by understanding a fundamental truth about consciousness. You are not the thinker of your thoughts. You are the awareness in which thoughts arise. Just like you are not the dreamer of your dreams at night, you don't actually control what thoughts appear in your mind. Thoughts arise spontaneously from the unconscious, and your conscious mind observes them. This realization is incredibly freeing. If you're not creating your thoughts, then you're not responsible for every thought that appears. You don't have to feel guilty about having negative thoughts or proud of having positive thoughts. Thoughts are just mental weather, constantly changing, not under your direct control. What you can control is your response to thoughts. You can choose which thoughts to believe, which ones to act on, and which ones to let pass by without engagement. This is where your real power lies, not in controlling what thoughts arise, but in choosing how to relate to the thoughts that do arise. The Sufis spent lifetimes perfecting this art of conscious relationship with the mind. They developed profound inner peace, not by eliminating thoughts, but by learning to dance with them skillfully. They found that when you stop fighting your mind and start befriending it, it naturally begins to settle into deeper states of calm and clarity. This is the secret to mental peace that modern approaches often miss. Peace isn't something you achieve by force or technique. It's something that emerges naturally when you stop creating inner conflict. When you stop being at war with your own mind, the war ends, and peace is what remains. Your racing mind at 3 a.m. isn't your enemy. It's not a problem to be solved or a disorder to be cured. It's a natural function that's been overstimulated by modern life and undersupported by wisdom about how to work with mental energy skillfully. With the right understanding and practice, that same mind can become your greatest ally in creating a life of depth, meaning, and genuine peace. If this video resonated with you, like this video and share this with your loved ones. Thanks for watching.